So we shall go on to our next speaker, Dr. Ishan Acharya, who is going to be detailing on orbital implants overview. And Dr. Ishan is a consultant of Orbit Eye Hospital, Vadodara, and has an exclusive oculoplasty services practice, a very experienced and dynamic surgeon. On to you, doctor.
Thank you. Thank you, AIOS and Dr. Chitra Madam for inviting me for the PG update. Let us start with some terms which are used in an ophthalmic socket reconstruction. So better term would be an ophthalmic implant rather than orbital implant, conformer, scleral shell, prosthesis, and peg. So an ophthalmic implant, they are used to replace the volume and to enhance the motility of the eviscerated or enucleated socket, and they are actually placed intraoperatively. And they come in different sizes and shapes like you are seeing here, and different materials also. Conformer is a transparent thin shell with holes which is placed post-operatively to retain or to form the fornices of the socket. Scleral shell is a very thin, very thin shell with cornea on it. It can be transparent or it can be opaque also, and is put usually on the atrophic bulbi or phthisis bulbi, where volume is little less. And prosthesis is actually a prosthesis which can be a stock eye or which can be a custom made eye. The advantages of custom eye are follows the contour of the socket, better prosthetic motility, excellent cosmesis, and much longer shelf life, and they are made by an oculist. So here this patient has a conformer in place, this patient has transparent shell, and this patient has opaque shell in place. So why an implant is required to after doing any enucleation or evisceration? Basically, the main purposes are volume replacement and motility enhancement. And in congenital anophthalmos, the orbital implant will stimulate the growth in the children. So if no implant is put, you can see here, you can see the significant anophthalmos. You can see the posterior tilt of the prosthesis, deep superior sulcus deformity, and backward tilt of the prosthesis. And sometimes it leads to the lid retraction also in some patients, basically because of the posterior rotation of the superior rectus and levator complex, and forward rotation of the fat, inferior orbital fat and inferior rectus. So if smaller implant is placed, you can see again here the anophthalmos, deep superior sulcus, and sagging lower lid because of heavier prosthesis. Now compared to that, this patient, you can see this is the prosthetic eye. I can enhance that, and you can see the best cosmesis which can be achieved is achieved in this patient with lid screen and lid crease, and all lower lid, all contour are all okay. Now, if larger implant is placed, it can cause wound dehiscence, implant exposure, flattening of the fornices, and thereby the movement of the prosthesis will be compromised because the less space is available. So there will be decrease in the motility, and you may not be able to appreciate the anterior chamber depth in thin prosthesis because larger implant will occupy more space and the prosthesis will be thinner than what is required. This is the video showing the implant motility. These implant motility, this is a this integrated implant, sphere implant, and you can see now the very good transfer of the motility to the prosthesis. Now compared to that video, you can see here in this video the prosthesis motility is little lesser. So there can be a larger implant in place, or there can be shortening of the fornices during the surgery also by pulling the tissues. So motility is very important post-operatively, and we have to be very accurate with the technique also and the placement of the implant. In congenital case of congenital anophthalmos, we can use this self-expanding hydrogel orbital implant, and also there is injectable pellet expander also, but they are of, and usually they are not used because better this equipment, these are available, like serial better ways are available by enlarging the conformer gradually. You can see the base result. So base time is to put an implant is a primary orbital implant, while we do the enucleation or evisceration only, as very well informed by Dr. Neelam madam. But we may have to go for secondary implant, that is already the eye has been removed, and we go for secondary implant. So now what size implant should we put? See, when you remove the eye, it also comes along with, especially in enucleation, along with some soft tissue, and there is soft tissue contracture or fat atrophy, which is again debatable, but averagely there is 7 to 9 ml volume loss. So we have to replace that 7 to 9 ml to give best prosthesis, and that should be given by the implant. Wrap may or may not be used, and prosthesis, so almost 7 ml to be used. So ideally 80% of the volume should be replaced by the implant itself, and 20% by the prosthesis. So prosthesis is usually around 2 to 2.5 ml, and that will, if it is more than that, the volume of prosthesis, if it is more than that, it will be significantly heavy, and it will be it will put its weight on the lower lid, and thereby causing sagging of the lower lid. So these are the size of the implant and the volume available. So we can go through those charts when we measure. There are implant sizes also intraoperatively which can be used, and we can put it in intraoperatively, and we can see that whether the closure is tight or adequate. So for enucleation, there are nomograms available according to axial length of the normal eye to decide the volume of the or size of the implant, or either we can place the 10 cc, we can take the saline and put enucleated eye 20 cc, and we can put enucleated eye in that, and we can measure the displacement in the water, and thereby deciding the size of the water. The best thing is to use your experience. So globe volume minus prosthesis volume will be implant volume. So almost 4.7 cc should be replaced. That will come to 21 mm diameter of an orbital implant. So that is not an easy to put during evisceration especially, but in enucleation it may be possible to do that. So for evisceration, there are no clear-cut guidelines available. Radial sclerotomy should be done to accommodate larger implant, and approximately 18 to 20 mm size.
Doctor, 1 minute left.
In classification of the implant, non-integrated, integrated, and semi was integrated. So there are PMMA implant and silicone implant. PMMA is now commonly used. These are quasi-integrated implant which have very irregular anterior surface, but they are abandoned now. Nobody uses them. This is exposed implant. There are exposed integrated implant, which some part of the implant is inside the conjunctiva in the socket, and some part is exposed. Porous implant are natural hydroxyapatite implant, porous polyethylene, synthetic hydroxyapatite implant, bioceramic, and they were introduced to avoid extrusion, exposure, and to provide better motility, reduce the risk of implant infection, but none are proven definitely. You require pegging to provide better motility, implanting movements. And one is exposed buried integrated implant like dermis fat graft, which provides volume and surface both. So this is actually conjunctivalization has started here in the second photograph. So porous versus non-porous debate goes on. Two major reviews conclude that there is little evidence that the implant migration is laced with porous orbital implants. There is little evidence to support the suggestion that porous implant have a reduced infection rate. Without the peg in place, there is no proven motility advantage of porous over non-porous implants. The most common sequel is asymmetry. You can see here what I like to now is almost very difficult to achieve.
Mute all of us, Mr. Sunil.
Yeah. You can. This patient has lace volume. post subperiosteal implant has been put. Again, congenital enophthalmos. Symmetry is not there, but because of congenital microphthalmos. So asymmetry can be because of smaller, larger migration, small socket or wrong prosthesis fitting. Migration is also common in this non-integrated implant. Exposure is like this, and patient may come in hand with the implant. Integrated implants are exposure is very high, expensive, and there is cyst formation also. So concluding, new implants used to be evaluated over a long period of time. For Indian patients in general, non-porous implants are extremely cost effective. Affording patients can be given the option of integrated implant with minor complications. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Vidya, can you take one question before we go on to our next speaker? Dr. Vidya?
In case of children, like when they require enucleation or evisceration, we end up putting a smaller implant. But as they grow old, the implant becomes small and there might be poor cosmesis. How do you deal with this problem? How do we achieve?
Usually maximum 90, for more than 95% of the facial growth occurs by the age of 5 to 6 years, and orbital growth also. So before that, if I want to put an implant, I will definitely go for largest implant if available, if possible, to put in that socket. Otherwise, I can go for the dermis fat graft also.
So over the implant, you will also use dermis fat graft?
No. Even only dermis fat graft can do.
Okay.
Thank you, Doctor.